This video was made possible by Warpath, the free-to-play mobile strategy game. Warpath offers you the chance to take charge of faithful, historically accurate World War II battlegrounds right on your phone. You can experience classic battles such as the Normandy landings and the defense of Moscow, freely commanding troops to execute your own strategies. Go visit Jean-Claude Van Damme, our new Quartermaster Commander, to make sure your equipment, materials, and systems are available and functioning for the upcoming missions. And now, with Warpath's latest update, take to the skies with your own custom Air Force by utilizing over 42 new bombers and fighter units, including the infamous P-51 Mustang, an American long-range single-seat fighter used during World War II as a tactical reconnaissance aircraft and a bomber. P-51's aerial prowess is unmatched inside the game, as it was unmatched in World War II, where Mustang pilots destroyed 4,950 enemy aircraft. Using 650 caliber AN/M2 Browning machine guns, you will easily take down your in-game opponents the same way the Allied Air Forces did during World War II to obtain a hard-fought victory and protect their homelands. These planes are a surefire way to lift your strategy beyond your enemy's defenses. Synergize this Air Force with ground troops to create a deep, rewarding battlefield strategy on your path to world domination. Live and fight within the stories we at Simple History strive to tell, anytime, anywhere. Click the link in the description to download Warpath now. Use our code AIR-FORCE2021 to instantly receive 200 gold, 100k military funds, steel, crude oil, and an army experience. Use these resources to distinguish yourself from the competition and let them jumpstart your renowned career as a war general today. Dismissed. The 6-year-old Red Army lieutenant of World War II, Sergei Seryozha Aleshkov, son of the regiment, World War II. During the Great Patriotic War against the Germans from 1941 to 1945, the Soviet Union mobilized all of its resources to defend the motherland. Over 34 million people bore arms during the 4 years of the conflict, including women, old men, and youngsters. It's estimated that thousands of children under the age of 16 years old fought in the ranks of the Red Army. One of them was Sergei Saryosha Aleshkov, the youngest soldier of World War II. Like most of the children that fought alongside the Red Army soldiers, Sergei Aleshkov was driven into the war by circumstances. When the Germans attacked the Soviet Union in June 1941, he lived with his mother and 3 older brothers in the village of Grin in the Kaluga region, some 200 miles away from Moscow. At the time, he was just 5 years old. Soon, the war came to his doorstep, and his 2 eldest brothers were enlisted. Then, in autumn 1941, the Germans stormed through his village on their way to Moscow. Even before the front stabilized near the Soviet capital, the Red Army High Command began organizing partisan units behind the front line. Sergei's home village, Grin, became a base for the local partisan detachment. His family, like all the other villagers, supported the partisans with food and shelter. In the summer of 1942, the Germans attacked the village to destroy the partisan camp. Saryosha's village suffered annihilation as the Germans killed all those who were suspected of helping the partisans. Among the murdered villagers were Sergei's mother and brother. His 10-year-old brother Pyotr was hanged, while his mother was shot trying to save her son. Saryosha, too, would have probably been killed, but he managed to escape the horror by being pushed out a back door and running for his life. With no one left to care for him, and with his home village burned to the ground, Seryoza ran off into the woods. He spent several days wandering through the forest before being saved by a scout unit of the 142nd Guards Infantry Regiment of the 47th Guards Rifle Division. It was fortunate for him that the scouts were patrolling that remote region far behind the front line. When they found Saryosha, the little boy was in a terrible state. He was half-starved and disoriented, and his body was covered in scabs from insect bites. The soldiers wrapped him in a horse blanket and took him to the safety of their headquarters. The boy quickly recovered. The entire unit grew very fond of him, so he became the unit's mascot. The regiment's commander, Major Mikhail Varubioff, showed a special affection toward Saryosha, so he adopted him. Major Varubioff had no wife or children of his own. Saryosha even suggested a suitable wife for the major, regimental nurse Nina Bedova, whom the boy was very fond of. For the major, adopting the boy was not only a choice of his heart, but also a wise decision. He knew Saryosha would not end up hungry in the regiment, as he probably would if he was put into an orphanage. That was the beginning of Private Sergei Aleshkov's war. In November of 1942, the 142nd Guards Infantry Regiment was transferred to Stalingrad. Sergei naturally went with them. He delivered newspapers and letters to the soldiers on the front line and sang songs to cheer them up. Overall, he was responsible for boosting the unit's morale and providing soldiers with the image of their kids that they missed so much. The unit kept him as far from the front line as they could, but the boy did his part in defeating the enemy. One day, as he was performing his usual duties, he spotted some suspicious-looking characters hiding in the haystack. He knew that he needed to rush back and report it to the HQ. As it turned out, these were German artillery forward fire spotters. The Germans were quickly disposed of, and Sergei received praise for his actions. On another occasion, he and his adoptive father, Mikhail Varubioff, found themselves in the middle of a German barrage. Vorobiev pushed his son to safety and jumped into a dugout, which was then hit by a shell. The major was wounded and buried under a pile of dirt and debris. Saryosha tried to dig him out, but didn't have the strength to do it, so he ran to seek help. A squad of sappers hurried over and managed to dig the major out of the dugout. On April 27, 1943, Sergei received a medal for military merit from the divisional commander in recognition of his bravery. Being always around his new father, Sergei considered himself to be nothing less than the commander's adjutant. Therefore, he insisted on wearing an officer's uniform, and he got one, a proper small-size version of the Red Army officer's uniform, with small leather boots, a belt, a cap, and binoculars. To indulge him even more, soldiers even made a small set of shoulder straps for the rank of junior lieutenant. Saryosha was very proud of his uniform and rank, but the latter almost cost him his life. While he was delivering letters to soldiers, a German aircraft spotted him. The first thing the German pilot saw was shiny shoulder straps. The pilot opened fire with his machine guns and wounded Sergei in the heel. Unfortunately, this was not his only close encounter with death. In May 1943, the entire regiment was crossing the northern Donets River. An artillery shell exploded near to the raft Sergei was in and threw the boy into the water. Sergei would have surely drowned if it wasn't for a quick-thinking soldier who jumped into the water to grab him. Another time, he was crossing the Dnieper River on the pontoon ferry with his father in a jeep. When the vehicle reached dry land, it ran over and set off a landmine that threw the jeep into the air. The driver was killed instantly. Major Vorobiev was concussed, but Saryosha ended up without a scratch. Throughout the rest of the war, Sergei followed his father and the 142nd Guards Infantry Regiment wherever they went. In 1944, while in position on the river Vistula in Poland, the commander of the 8th Guards Army, General Vasily Chuikov, paid a visit to the unit. Of course, he asked to meet Saryosha and was impressed with the boy. As a souvenir of his visit, Chuikov gave him a Browning pistol as a present. After the meeting, General Chuikov gave instructions that Saryosha was to be sent to the Suvorov Military School in Tula, where he remained until the end of the war. Nevertheless, Saryosha received the Medal for Victory over Germany in the Great Patriotic War of 1941 through 1945. Sergei's fragile health prevented him from pursuing a military career after the war, so he enrolled in law school. He worked in the prosecutor's office and as a legal advisor in the plexiglass plant. He died of a heart attack in 1990 in the city of Chelyabinsk. Sergei Seryozha Aleshkov was the youngest combatant of World War II, but his story is just one of many about children who fought in the war. In memory of those small heroes, the Soviet writer Valentin Kataev wrote the novel Son of the Regiment. That was precisely what Saryosha was.